Did the WandaVision finale deliver? Did they fully integrate the X-Men Quicksilver into the MCU? Was Mephisto revealed? If you answered yes to all of these questions, you're wrong. Stay tuned for our review.
The finale saw the series come to a close with Vision versus Vision, Agatha versus Wanda, Ralph Bohner versus Monica Rambeau, and Director Hayward versus Darcy. We also saw the Hex come to a close with an emotional goodbye between Wanda and Vision and a heartbreaking moment with their children. The episode took a more traditional approach to closure, with almost all fan theories proving false, which might or might not be controversial to viewers. With 2 mid-credit scenes that seemingly tie into Captain Marvel 2, Secret Invasion, and Doctor Strange 2, there's plenty to look forward to. But was the finale and the series as a whole a satisfying one?
All right, guys. So we're going to go around the room and just give our reviews of not only the episode, but also of the series. Now that the series is over, I'm going to start. I rated this episode a 6. I thought it was okay. Started off really, really good. When the 2 Visions started fighting, I was into it. I got chills. And then it slowly started to decrease in quality in my mind, and got very, very basic and predictable. For the series, I'm going to rate the series a 6, which is also okay. I feel like the series is worth watching because of the characters. I think the characters were the strongest part of it, and obviously the connection to the MCU. But other than that, I thought the writing was pretty bad. There were some inconsistencies, and just overall, the decisions I didn't agree with. And it was, again, very safe and didn't do much to move the MCU forward. Tony, what are your thoughts?
I rate the episode a 7. I rate it as good, but that's because I'm so glad that this shit is finally over and I don't have to watch it anymore. The series as a whole, I rated a 5 because, again, I'm done with this series. It's over. No, I mean, the episode was a 7 to me. It seemed to wrap up, I mean, all theories aside, just kind of wrap up the story. I'm not going to say it was a great ending, but I am happy that it's over. What little bit of action that we got was okay. It felt very sitcom-ish in the aspect of just kind of the scenery and the wording, the lines, things like that. I'm glad it's over. Those are my scores, and I'm pretty proud of them. Chris?
I rate the episode a 6. I was pretty disappointed in it. We'll get into the specifics here in just a little bit. And the series overall, 7. I do think the episode was really a microcosm of the whole series. I thought it started off really promising. Trey, I agree with you in the beginning. I thought, okay, like, we got something here. And then it just went down a path that was disappointing, predictable, and safe. And I just think that was not the right direction for them to go. And I think the other thing, too, when we talked about in the opening, Trey, around the fan theories, one thing to me is proving out, and I hope that Marvel learns from it, but the fans and the fan theories, to me, are starting to become far more entertaining and creative than the shows themselves. And I think they really need to start taking some risks in the series, because if they keep down the path that they're going to, I think people are going to get fatigued, in my opinion. You got the MCU, it's large, take advantage of it. So we'll talk more in a second about that.
What's interesting, too, just to that point, is they took a risk on how they built the series and how they started it, right? Like, they started it with, 2 episodes that were based off of sitcoms in the 50s, and then didn't tell anybody, didn't give anybody any information on what was going on. So I just thought about that when you said that, where they did take a risk on the premise of the show, but they didn't take any kind of a risk on any impact that it had on the bigger MCU universe. So yeah, so I agree. Okay, guys, awesome. So we're going to get into a little ad lib and just kind of give our quick thoughts on some quick hitters on what we thought about the series.
All right, guys, at that time of the show, we're going to go through the ad libs. Trey, I'm going to start with you. I'll hit you, Tony, and then I'll answer. So Trey, the finale felt blank.
Repeat it one more time so I have a little bit more time to think about it.
The finale felt blank.
I think overall very safe. And to add to that in one sentence, the kids, her losing the kids, and then 45 seconds later, they're back in the mid-credit scene it's safe. You didn't give us anything to you know to really stress out about, I guess, for lack of a better word.
So not to spend too much time on it, but you make a really good point, to be honest with you, which is it's almost like the MCU is afraid to say goodbye and really have true emotional send-offs because Vision's still around. White Vision has basically been unlocked, and so he's going to be coming back. So we didn't lose Vision. And then the kids, when she hears the noises when she's reading the Darkhold book, you know that they're going to come back in some way. And so I think that's actually been a criticism of the MCU in the past. It was one of the things that people really got on about Civil War because they really thought there would be some casualties there. But it's disappointing. So I'm glad you brought that up because I agree with it completely.
And not only that, they brought Vision back with the White Vision, and then it's like they made him just fly away and disappear. So it's like, what was even? I don't know. They didn't let any of it settle. Like they couldn't even give us one series with leaving him dead. They had to bring him back right away. So
Yep.
I agree with you there.
All right, Tony. So to you, the finale felt blank.
Finale felt great because this series is over. Next question.
All right, so I'll go. So Trey, my answer is similar to yours. The finale for me felt pedestrian.
Yeah.
Total waste of creative opportunity. And you made a really good point earlier too on the premise of the show. And we debated earlier in the season about whether that was a good premise or not. It was a safe risk or not a safe risk, but the right risk for them to take. And it was weird that they took such a risk on the format of the show, but then on the storyline, they just went a completely safe route. And I think it was a huge mistake. The other thing that was interesting too, the commercials. What was the deal with those? Tons of fan theories that the commercials tied in and had some kind of meaning, and there's really no explanation on those. Maybe there will be at some point, but just such a wasted opportunity. So for me, the finale felt pedestrian and just wasted potential. All right, Trey, next one. Agatha was a blank villain in the MCU.
And terrible. We talked about Catherine Hahn and her casting, and I had notes again. I love her, but she is so miscast in this role. The writing doesn't help. I felt like I was watching like Hocus Pocus, which I enjoy that movie, but I'm just like this is what they came up with. They had all this time, and this is a villain they came up with. So I'll go with that.
Yeah, agreed. Tony, back to you. Agatha was a blank villain in the MCU.
Agatha was a Disney villain in the MCU.
Okay.
Horrible. I was worried that this kind of stuff would start happening with Disney, and I feel like it's happening. She was very sugar-coated, animated, almost like an animated witch. I think the opportunity was lost. They could have done a lot of things. They got a great actress to play her. They could have, I think so it gets confusing because you can read a million fan theories, and most of the comics, Agatha was older. So they could have done some kind of Game of Thrones, Melisandre thing. I think that was her name, where she's appears young, but she's actually, super old. And then kind of, I don't know, then again, I'm not the writer. So what they were being safe. They were being rated G kind of villain. So it's just a big waste, in my opinion. Very Disney.
Yeah, so my answer here is that Agatha was a caricature villain in the MCU. And I agree, Tony, with what you're saying is they've got to be really careful that, there's a difference between a villain and a caricature of a villain or that sort of classic cliche. Like we talked about, Trey, that cackling witch laugh. Like there's one thing if you want to pay homage to it versus like you just lean into it and then you're just going to be this sort of cartoonish villain. And I just think that the series deserves something better. What if they didn't even have a villain and Wanda was the villain the whole time? And because if you remember earlier in the season, Monica Rambeau said, if Wanda is the problem, then Wanda is the solution. And so I think it could have actually been more interesting if Agatha wasn't even part of it and or was part of it in a different way. And they just worked through that piece directly with Wanda. I don't know. I just think Agatha was a ridiculously cartoonish villain, and the MCU deserves better, and I thought they were on a better path. All right, Trey, over to you. I've got opinions on this one. I know you do too. Hayward was a blank villain in the MCU.
Generic. I mean, everything was like, I don't know, like a 1990s like military. Kind of actually reminded me of what's the guy from Avatar, like the military guy, like
Oh yeah,
Mm,
just like kind
yeah.
of taking it over, but they went a little bit of a different direction because, in the beginning he's welcoming Monica Rambeau back and is obviously respectful towards her mother and everything, and then it just turns into like just no depth. There's no depth to his character. Nothing that, and I think we talked about this in a previous episode. When you can kind of relate to a villain, like obviously they've gone too far in things and they're doing things that are bad, but when you can go, man, but I get that, like they're kind of a tragedy, you understand why they're doing this even though you don't agree with it. And he was just, I mean, just like a, I don't know, like a CSI villain or something, or Agents of Shield or something like that.
hmm
Yeah.
It's actually a great way to describe it. An Agents of Shield villain. It's exactly what it seemed like. All right, Tony, over to you. Hayward was a blank villain in the MCU.
mhm. I guess piggybacking off what Trey said, kind of safe, generic, all of those words, lame, not even douchey, but kind of douchey. I don't know. Just a secondary villain, but at the same time, it was bad. Just bad
Yeah.
writing. They could have done a lot more, kind of, got a little bit more in depth with the character, or, all the theories that he wasn't, Agent Hayward, he was actually someone else in disguise, or had alternate plans the whole time, which he kind of did, but at the same time, it's just, oh, it's bad, man. It was bad. Glad this is over. Okay, next question.
All right. So for me, Hayward, I'm with you, Trey. Hayward was a flat and cliche villain. Now that you want to talk about him because he was so terrible. All right, Trey, next question. I would describe the emotional impact of the show as blank.
Oh, so that's actually a good one. So the scenes where I enjoyed the final episode and the series in general, where the scenes where Wanda was saying goodbye to Vision and her kids. Now the problem is it's complete bullshit because they're just going to bring them right back. However, the connection that less with the kids, because obviously they were late into the series, but you obviously know the connection between a mother and her kids and you start to understand her pain. But the connection between her and Vision, I really enjoyed that. I think the series could have focused more on her and Vision's relationship, or her and the kids' relationship, and really piggybacked off of that and expanded on that, and then done some things to be, take a little bit more risks. Where if they never introduced White Vision and they didn't have the ending credit scenes with the kids and the Hex was gone, wouldn't you have a different feeling about this series? You'd be like, damn. And didn't they just do that with Infinity War? Like there wasn't a post credit scene or mid credit scene with Infinity War that made you think that everybody was coming back. They were just like
hmm
everyone's dead and we're going to the credits and it's done. So I know that was a little bit long-winded, but I actually think there was some good aspects of that, but again they just failed to capitalize on it.
All right, Tony, what about you? I would describe the emotional impact of the show as blank.
Lacking. Again, Disney-esque. They should have killed the kids, should have killed Vision. To me, there wasn't enough loss in the series. It's too Disney. I don't know. It's too Disney. Maybe I've just been watching too many dark series lately, to where when everyone gets out and everyone survives, I'm just disappointed because that's not real life. That's not reality. When Agatha had the kids by the throat with her magic or something, I thought she was going to absorb them, like absorb their power, and then they would,
Yep.
turn into skeletons or something. But again, it's Disney, so that's not going to happen.
Is that a concern
Um,
because this is on Disney Plus, that everything that's on Disney Plus is going to be
well, it is now
like
for me.
that?
I mean, I kind
I
of
hadn't
I
really
so
thought
that's
about
kind of
that.
how I feel.
I think it is. So it's interesting. So I'm going to piggyback on that, Tony. So I would say the emotional impact of the show is uneven. I think that so Trey, exactly what you said. If the kids had like, I actually thought it was like really impactful to see her say goodbye to Vision. The relationship, I agree, is actually now one of the most developed relationships of any of the MCU characters, or couples. And then I think the kids, them closing the door and knowing that was it. And I thought the actors that played the kids did a really good job of like building an emotional connection to the audience.
Yeah.
And so like to know that they were going, like that's like I was like hit me. But I agree with you, Tony. I actually thought Agatha would absorb them, or Mephisto might come and absorb them. So I actually thought something like that would happen, where they would be taken from her. I thought that would be emotionally impactful too. And then it just felt like a cop out, just at the very end, just to hear their voices again. I knew they were gonna come back at some point because they're tied into the Young Avengers, and they're moving toward the Young Avengers at some point. But again, going back to your example of Infinity War, Trey, leave the audience hanging for a little bit and let us, process some level of emotional impact before you suddenly be like, oh, never mind. Actually, they're all going to come back. So uneven to me throughout, not just throughout the series, but especially in the finale. I think it was just disappointing. And then the other storylines, Darcy's storyline, the Monica Rambeau storyline, absolutely registered zero of any kind in terms of emotional impact. But I did think that the relationship between Vision and Wanda is pretty cool. All right, Trey, last one. The mid-credit scenes, both of them, were blank.
Pointless. I mean, we were kind of laughing about this after we watched it, Chris, via text. Like, I can't remember what the name of the species are, but the species that came to like recruit Monica Rambeau, it looked like
Skrulls.
what is it?
They're the
Skrulls.
Skrulls. Yeah,
So it
Skrulls.
looked like they went to Party City and bought like a costume, and that's what it looked like. Like it was kind of flappy or whatever. That didn't, I talked to you about the Monica Rambeau thing. Like I actually thought they had some opportunities to do something really cool with that character, and they did nothing. So anyways, the second one, I was kind of confused by it because she was outside and then she was inside. So I don't know, maybe later on in the review, y'all can, let me know what that was all about. But I thought it undermined the series. It undermined the emotional impact to have her kids reaching out to her. Everybody's going to go see Doctor Strange too. Do they need really a hook to try and, I mean, is that going to make more people go see it? I don't know. And if that was a hook to try and get people to go see it, they did a very poor job of bringing this movie into Doctor Strange 2, where you go, okay, because of this, I'm going to go see Doctor Strange 2. It could be any movie, and it didn't. There's no emotional carryover from this to Doctor Strange 2 for me anyway.
Tony, what about you? The mid-credit scenes were blank.
Mid-credit scenes were trash. I don't care. They were horrible. They were just a waste of space. I feel sorry that the actors actually had to record them. They should have just all walked away at the end of the last scene. This was stupid. I don't even care. I don't care about Captain Marvel 2. That has nothing to do with it. The scene where the cabin, she's outside, she's inside, reminded me of The Watchmen with Dr. Manhattan, where he's in multiple areas. One's reading, the other one's putting the thing together. Like it just, I don't care, dude. I don't care. Horrible. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, no, I thought the mid-credit scenes were underwhelming. There's this big tease of connecting to Doctor Strange 2. So I think a lot of us I especially thought Doctor Strange would show up in the finale. He didn't. And that final scene in the cabin, I get it. So basically the concept there, Trey, is that she's on the astral plane. So I think similar to what Tony was saying, she has the ability to sort of be in two places at once. So like she can be reading the Darkhold, sort of going through that process while her physical person is doing something else. And then I know that Agatha made a comment in the final battle that the Scarlet Witch, whatever that is in the MCU lore now, is more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme. So she directly referenced Stephen Strange. But it wasn't much of a lead-in to Doctor Strange 2 at all. And then I agree with you, Trey. The whole thing with the Skrulls was just stupid. So I heard you're grounded and then point up. Like, just speak. There's too much of that, too, to me, what was the poor writing. It was more for to try for dramatic effect versus just like be plain spoken and direct about what's going on. Like, what is this about? It just seems stupid. It'll be interesting, but I do think it ties into two shows. So not just ties into Captain Marvel 2, but the Secret Invasion series that Nick Fury is going to be leading up is basically all about the Skrulls that are in hiding. So I think we're about to find a bunch of people that we've seen in the MCU that are going to pop up and suddenly say that they've been Skrulls all along. It's going to be interesting to see how they handle some of that. I am a little bit worried. Trey, I told you early on in the series, and Kevin Feige I trust. I don't totally trust him at this point now, especially the Disney Plus series. And I worry, Tony, a little bit is what you said, that Disney needs the series on Disney Plus to be a little bit more PG and less PG-13. When the dog died in the show, I thought, oh my God, here they go. They're about to go a little darker, and this is going to go down some of the fan theory paths. It's going to be awesome, but not sit well with some kids. And then they did exactly what you said, Tony. They stayed the Disney path. And so I'm nervous now for Winter Soldier, Falcon the Winter Soldier, and to see if they go beyond just PG.
And I would say, why do you have to kill a dog? What does that do?
You don't.
And
it didn't
then
do anything, Trey. Nothing.
And then,
it did nothing.
And then they have Agatha like bragging about killing the dog.
There was no reason for it. First of all, don't fucking kill dogs
in
the show.
Yeah.
Ever.
I agree.
But there's no.
So my one complaint with John Wick.
Yeah, dude, you're not wrong. But there's no reason. Yeah. Don't do it. Like, if it served a purpose, then let it serve a purpose. As far as I can tell, it served no meaningful purpose. It couldn't have been replaced with something else. It was just unnecessary. So,
yeah.
All right, guys. So that brings us to a close. Really just have a couple of sections left. We're going to go through our hot takes, and then just a couple of questions on a couple of theories and out of the series. All right, guys, let's get into some hot takes. Trey, let's start with you.
Yeah, so my first one is how poor the writing is. I haven't heard a lot of people online say that. I actually, in general, everybody online loves the series. And I would challenge people to look at it not under the, MCU goggles, the Marvel goggles, which we all love. We all love Marvel, but just look at the show as a whole. Look at the writing, look at the decision making, look at the lack of impact that it had. And the people that are going, man, this is so great. This is what we needed. I just don't get it. And I think that a lot of those people, they just had this expectation, and I'm going to use the term fanboys. They're fanboys, and they have a tough time dissecting what is actually good and what is actually not good. And again, to me, this was very mediocre. It was very safe. Didn't do anything for me. And again, the things that it did from an emotional standpoint, they completely erased those towards the end. So that's my hot take.
All right, Tony, what's yours?
Pass. No, man, I don't know. I got like this whole. I got nothing, man.
I got one for you, Tony, that I think you'll have something to say about, but it probably just pissed you off. Okay. So Monica's trapped by Quicksilver, right, in the house, and he's using his powers, but then she does like a judo throw and gets him on the ground, and then she's able to escape. So how did you feel about that, number one? And then number two, it is a big FU to all the fans that thought about how cool it was to do the crossover with Quicksilver. And they were just basically like, not only is this not Quicksilver, not only was this Agatha, and what did she call him? Instead of Pietro,
Pietro.
Not only that, we're gonna call him Ralph. Just get this, we're gonna call him Ralph Bohner, and it's just a big FU to everybody. And guess what? Everyone's gonna think that we're geniuses. So that's what are your thoughts on that? Because I know that's near and dear to
I mean, I think they really missed an opportunity to do some stuff. The whole scene of them up in that, I don't know, I guess the attic or something like that weird room that he was keeping her trapped in, even though she has powers or whatnot. And then, I don't know. It was just dumb. I want to fast forward through that whole thing.
I was confused. I guess Agatha can give people powers because he had the exact same powers as, I mean, it was just confusing to me that what she could and couldn't do. And I agree, Tony, it was a complete waste.
But yet he had knowledge, when he said the missus is down there or whatever doing something. So he had knowledge of what Agatha was doing, but I don't know. It was just, it was inconsistent with itself. Their portrayal of who the character possibly could have been. I mean, we're not writing the show, so we got our feelings all up in a bunch because we were excited that it would be someone that it wasn't. I would say that they purposely did this. Obviously, they could have gotten anyone to play Ralph Bohner and then not be actual Quicksilver, but they kind of threw a monkey wrench in it by making it the Fox's Quicksilver, but at the same time did nothing with that because that's not actually who it was. It
Yeah,
wasn't,
with no point.
he
There's no
wasn't from a
point to
multiverse.
what they did and how they did it.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was almost just like a director that's like, I know what people are going to do with this, so we should do it just so we can get more views. It's like clickbait, right? It's basically what it is. It's clickbait. It makes you stick with the series because you're excited to see what could possibly happen. And at the end, now whether they maybe at one point had an idea to go that route, and then they were just like, no, we can't do it. That's too much. We can't wrap that up in 3 episodes, 4 episodes, or whatever, and then just backtrack from it. Or that was their plan the whole time, just to be a little smarter than the room, put some breadcrumbs out there, because now basically you can't ever, I mean, you could, but you're gonna have to do a lot of backtracking. They can't bring Fox's Quicksilver into, or you'd have to recast him. I mean, unless you want to bring up some elaborate, well, it was actually him, but Agatha made him think he was Ralph Bohner, and somehow he totally was too slow to miss the judo throw from Monica Rambeau, and then it's some, I don't know. Just trash, man. Trash.
So it was pre-planned from early on in the beginning. So there was an article where they talked about that decision, and they said it was one they made really early on. So real quick, I'll give mine, and then we can move to the next section. Mine is my disappointment in that early on, I told you guys what was exciting to me with WandaVision is the idea that a TV series could actually impact the MCU. And I was wrong. It's clear that they're not going to go that direction. They're not going to allow the TV series to have a significant impact on the MCU. By the end of the series, everything was just like a sitcom, wrapped up nice and tidy. They had virtually no impact on anything. Yes, we saw some character development and character arc with Wanda. She obviously is more powerful now, but the MCU as a whole, the Avengers never showed up. It didn't really impact the world itself in any meaningful way, at least that we know of right now. Maybe in the future that changes, as maybe this show planted seeds with people that will become superheroes like Monica Rambeau. Maybe her 2 kids will join the Young Avengers. Vision, maybe it was a way for Vision to come back. But in general, right now, that's just so disappointing to me, and what I was really looking forward to. Because when you talked about Trey earlier, like the weight of the show, the impact of the show, whether it be emotional, whatever, or not, like to me, what gets me watching the TV series right now is the impact that it could have in a larger MCU.
Right.
If it's not going to have the impact, and it's just a self-contained story that doesn't mean anything, that makes it less appealing for me to watch. And I'm worried that's what's going to happen with Winter Soldier now.
I'm okay with that if it's a good self-contained story, right? But it wasn't. So a couple of quick things that I had in my notes. What's up with her accent? Like
And
there
it keeps
was
coming and going. I don't know. Good question. It's terrible. Comes and goes.
And then all I could think about at the end was when she's walking down the street, and I just happened to, I honestly didn't plan this. She's got her hoodie on, like Eminem from 8 Mile, like just like, like I don't, and everyone's just, like I guess all the people that she hurt or whatever. It was just, I'm like, what are they doing? Like this doesn't, what does this mean? So, anyways, those are my other two concerns.
All right, guys, let's bring this to a close and finish with just a couple of quick questions on some final fan theories. Tony is ready to move on from this series, although I am excited, Trey, to get to our next series, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. All right, guys, let's hit the last 2 questions around some theories as we head out of this series and into the next set of Marvel shows. First, we've talked about this a little bit, but Trey, what do the mid-credit scenes mean for the future of the MCU?
Yeah, I think it was just quick setups, right? Quick setups for, you said it was for the Nick Fury series?
Secret Invasion.
Okay, so do you think there's anything there for Captain Marvel 2?
Yeah, I expect that, and I'm pretty sure that Monica Rambeau's character has been confirmed for Captain Marvel 2. So I think there'll be something there, because if you remember from Captain Marvel 1, the Skrulls, kind of where their lab was hovering right above Earth.
Right.
So I think they might be up there still, or some of them. So I'm sure it'll all connect back to something, but it was such a weak, I don't know, light connection to it. It was almost more, hey, let's just throw a scroll in there and just blow people's minds.
Okay, so I don't think that they understand that the way you emotionally impact and connect things are for there has to be a little bit of buildup, right? Like just throwing something at the end that's 2 seconds long or 5 seconds long, that doesn't like have any emotional impact. So again, they had which it shouldn't have been 30-minute episodes, but whatever, that's another, they had 9 episodes to at least throw some breadcrumbs in there to start to talk about, maybe what they're going to do with Monica Rambeau's character, who I think they completely wasted. And then also too, from the end, we talked about there was very little things that, okay, Scarlet Witch is going to be in Doctor Strange 2 or whatever, and she's going to be in the multiverse trying to get her kids back. I mean, okay, but it was just, yeah, I didn't, for me, there was very little impact, obviously.
Tony, what about you? I could skip you too, Tony, if you're sick of talking about the show.
Tony wants
I
to go
hope
back
that-
and say, I would describe the emotional impact of the show as torture. I'll edit that back in.
I hope that nothing happens and all the fanboys can suck it, because this series had nothing to do with the MCU. You can't take this series. It was just so campy and so bad. I hope it has nothing to do with the MCU movies. I hope, just because it was so bad. I don't want it to have anything like and plus with their inconsistencies, I wouldn't be surprised if when we do go see Doctor Strange in the multiverse and whatever madness of the multiverse, it just doesn't have anything to do. I mean, yeah, she might be in it, but it has nothing to do with what we saw in the series, because they're hoping that they can do a season 2 and bring that back into this shitty ass show. Okay, next.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I think what they did do is they obviously showed her progression, and so she's obviously an incredibly powerful, maybe the most powerful Avenger at this point. So I think that will play a role into Doctor Strange too. It's a lot of effort just to get that one point across. The scrolls thing, there's some secret invasion stuff coming. I'm not sure how good that's going to be. And then obviously Captain Marvel 2. I was not a fan of Captain Marvel 1. I thought it was really boring. So hopefully Captain Marvel 2 is better. But I agree with you, Trey. I think Monica Rambeau was a wasted character. She could have been a lot better, done a lot more, especially if they explored her powers more. And the whole thing with Pietro is stupid.
So I want to just, maybe we just finish it off with this last thought. We don't know if there was going to be a season 2 yet, but Tony actually brings up a good point that maybe they stay away from these storylines so that they can do another season, which would be kind of weak. Going back to, and again, I haven't read the comic books or anything like that, but if the main thing to come out of this series was that she became the Scarlet Witch, don't you think they should have talked about what that means a little bit more than a dumbass monologue, more than just one dumbass monologue from Agatha? Like, it's not like the series, same thing. It's not like the series built up to that. It was like, oh, okay, the last episode or last 2 episodes, whatever, we're going to give you a backstory on Agatha, and then we're going to show Wanda's past, and then all of a sudden we're going to give her the powers of the Scarlet Witch, and we're going to learn all about that through a 30-second monologue from Agatha. Why is that not, if that was the main thing to come out of the series, why was that not talked about or built out a little bit more? Again, from somebody that's a big Marvel fan, but I haven't read the comics. Like, I'm not a hardcore fan like that.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that's the thing that Marvel's going to have to balance, is that not everyone watching is a hardcore comic fan. We've not read the comics. We do research online and we like the show, but agreed. The Scarlet Witch storyline, I mean, maybe that should have been the main storyline. Obviously it picked up in the last couple episodes, but maybe it'll be explained in Doctor Strange too. I don't know, but I agree with you. The last question was around what you just talked about, Trey. Will there be a season 2? This might be an easy one. Feige says currently that there's no plans for season 2, that technically Doctor Strange is the direct sequel to the WandaVision. But Feige made a comment, that smart comment, which says he's been around long enough to say, never say never. So obviously something else could potentially happen. Let's, hope maybe it doesn't. And if it does, better. So Tony, I obviously have gone on my own arc from the beginning of the season till now, where I was a huge supporter of it and had a lot of patience, and my patience wore thin. Now I've ended the season quite disappointed, but I still have a lot of faith in the MCU as a whole. And I'm going to be watching Falcon and Winter Soldier in 2 weeks, with a lot of excitement and hope.
All right, guys. So that's a wrap for this episode. We're going to be getting into the Falcon and Winter Soldier series in 2 weeks. We'll go ahead and let Tony detach from his misery of this series. Chris, I actually think it's interesting that me and you ended up kind of on the same page with this series. We liked different parts of it, which I actually think is cool. But in the end, we came back together and, had a pretty uniform take on it. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, please subscribe. We'll figure out what we're going to do from a video standpoint. We have tons of stuff in the backlog that we've been waiting to do. So maybe we'll be able to plug that in next week. But for now, we're going to go play a little bit of Warzone, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks, guys.